Well, hello and welcome back, hopefully, to another episode of the Imperfect Men's Club podcast. I'm here with my friend and colleague, Jim Gurley, and today we're going to talk about confidence. Jim and I were chatting just before we started to record this, and confidence kind of started popping up. Not exactly sure how that started, but and then as we talked about it more, we recognized how deeply ingrained the concept of confidence or self-confidence, for instance, has in our day-to-day lives and how we view the world and so on and so forth. So I think I think Jim, what I'd like to do is take the topic of confidence and see how deeply we can go and how many different places we can go. And I'll just lead by saying one of the interesting comments you made was that as you're getting up towards the age of 60, you feel sometimes or more often that you have less confidence about your ability to impact anything moving forward. And that's a very interesting place to be because I'm 62. And when I was having my 60th birthday party, I was overwhelmed with anxiety, which is unlike me. And so I think part of what shapes me at my age is, yeah, look, it's not like I don't have a long time to go, but I have a lot less time to go than I've been. And I think that probably impacts me on a daily basis and how to manage that and stay upbeat and optimistic and happy. To me, it's just become more challenging, and I don't know that's because of my age only. I also think it's because of what's going around us in the world. So what are your thoughts on that, Jim?
Well, first of all, yeah, thank you for the accurate description of that because I think that accurately describes uh, a state. I'm in a state, all right? We're always in different states. But as we were talking about, I think uh, confidence or lack of self-confidence is something that we're always managing. But yeah, as you said, I think I'm not 60 yet, but as I had a birthday recently, and as I get closer to that number, I do think there's a hump in life, right? That you go through, and you start to realize you don't have as much control of of things or the outcomes of things as you maybe once thought you did. The impact, you can make an impact. I think that I feel good about the impact that I've had, obviously on my family, on my community, in my industry, and so on. But as the problems get bigger and the world continues to change as much as it is, especially in these recent, I'll even say months, right? With what's going on with AI, how divided we are as a country, the polarization our politicians and our media um, constantly remind us of every day. I that's I'm sure I'll come out of it, but there's a bit of a dark cloud on the certainty of where we're going.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Well, I think as you know, I've been you've been a leader most of your life, and I have as well. And I'm kind of ensconced in this topic of leadership, and I think that one of the things that great leaders do is they instill confidence in the people that they're leading. And I got to tell you, man, I'm 100% sure that part of how we feel the lack of confidence we have is we don't have any leaders. I can't really. I mean,
yeah.
I think Ron DeSantis, my Florida guy, is a leader, a military
Mhm.
guy, athlete background, family guy, and he's a leader. He leads by example. But other than him, right now, I'm at a loss. Certainly at the top of the heap, our current president is absolutely not a leader, and everybody that's
Mm.
behind him, I can't identify any of those people as leaders, and that's gotta be part of the reason that we feel a bit less confident about our future.
Yeah, yeah. At the risk of not making this a political topic, which everything is political, or not making it about him, the president, but he just reminds you of what's wrong, right? Of not having a vision. He clearly panders to the political winds. He's an excellent politician, so and he's been doing this for a long time, so he knows exactly how to take the topics or the headlines and turn them into political gains. And so yes, I have no confidence in his ability to bring us together. Um, and that's I mean, he speaks to, and I don't know the particulars, but I think it's a good example. When you do try to watch news or get updated on what's going on in the world, and you come across a story like the LSU basketball um, conference championship or whatever it is. I really stopped listening, so I'll get my news from you. But that's how we created this group of people that just dislike, almost hate our country, even though they benefited from it. And you have a head coach that clearly is is created this culture within that organization. So let's just use that as example of let's say lack of confidence that we're going in the right direction as a country without going too crazy on the political side, Mark. But
No, well,
yeah,
it's not political in the sense that, leadership is a standalone topic. Leadership can
yeah,
be in the classroom, it can be in sports, it can be political, it can be familial. You can be the leader of your family, which I'm sure you are. So there's so many. The thing about that, and I don't know enough about that because, as I told you, I listened to it a little bit in the car, and then I was at my
yeah.
location
Yeah,
when I got
you
out,
just
so I didn't
hold
get
that
to.
thought just for a second, because
Yeah.
again, you and I have this nice spirited conversation about what leadership means. I think it's an overused term,
Hmm.
but yeah, in the context of that, I think leadership is like parenting. It's modeling, right? Good leaders model behavior that you want to inspire to be like, and that is a form of, say, good leadership. I don't even know what it means, but so let's in the context of a leader, it's not just what they say, it's what they do, and it's what you inspire to be like them, right? To reproduce or to duplicate the good that they're doing for future generations, for the good of the organization, for the good of others, not just for themselves.
Yeah,
um
yeah. There's a certain selflessness to good leadership.
Selflessness is a good word. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And I also think that the integrity issue that we've talked about before in a leader is that the words and the actions are the same.
Yeah.
And I think that's those if you watch and listen to and then watch most of the people that are supposedly leading this country right now, what they're saying and what they're doing are not the same thing,
Hmm.
and then that hypocrisy is very frustrating, and it dents my confidence in our future. It certainly does, you
Hmm.
know. So the LSU thing, I think that's, to me, there's a lot of layers to that. The one that drives me insane is that it's about race. Like, I was a white team and LSU is a black team.
That started last year, correct?
I think so, yeah. And the two
Yeah,
it
but
was
it's
the two
falling
the
into some of this year's. Are they in the championship right now? Are they? Is it
No, I think Iowa's still in it and LSU's gone. Iowa beat LSU, and I think that
last
was
week, and that's why this made the headline news?
no, it was Monday. Yeah, it was Monday, this
I
past Monday.
see.
So 2 days ago, and I started listening about it yesterday, but I was occupied. I was working at stuff. I wasn't really listening. And you said, talk about ways to get your confidence back, at least your confidence in our future. Stop watching the fucking news.
Yeah. But again, I stumbled across. I have no interest in women's basketball. Not against it, just not my thing, right? So I stumbled across this article, and now before I know it, I'm wrapped up in this story because I'm fascinated by the head coach, which clearly is the one. I guess she hasn't spoken to her father in 37 years, and there's all kinds of other crazy stuff that goes on. But yeah, give us the background on the LSU recent stories and their players.
Well, I think I know that the Iowa player, this girl that shoots the lights out, man, she's fun to watch. Caitlin, I think, is
Mhm.
Caitlin Clark. She's chucking stuff up, dude. She's chucking up shots when she's stepping over the half court line and just knocking them down.
Wow.
Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, and
And
this is
so
this tournament or last year's tournament?
both, but particularly this year. She had a bang up tournament last year too. She's outstanding.
Is
And
and they lost to them in the final, right?
Iowa
LSU did.
lost Iowa lost to LSU in the final last year.
I see. So this is like
It's a rivalry, and
it's a
the and
rivalry.
and
Yeah, I see.
and LSU's got one or two players that are also really, really good, but they're trash talkers. And
Uh-huh.
it's not like trash talking is not a part of sports, but as well as anybody, dude,
Yeah.
there's trash talking and then there's crossing lines, when
Okay.
you start
But there's a
saying
race
stuff.
component to this because one team is white, another team is mostly black. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
well, yeah. I mean, Iowa is a mostly white team, and LSU is a mostly black team, maybe all black. I don't know. I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter to me, right?
Right, right.
So, but I think, and I don't think it's probably not the teams or the players that are doing this. It's probably mostly the media because
No
it makes
question.
it makes the news juicy. They do that with everything.
No
Everything is
question.
divisive. Everything is us against them, and
Yes.
it's again, it sucks the life out of people.
Oh, it does.
And I,
Yeah.
and I, another kind of subtopic in terms of confidence is, and we both have kids that are 20s and 30s, and
Yeah.
that this generation or these two
Mhm.
generations, they're not walking into the world with a sense of confidence about our future. I mean,
No, not at
that
all.
because
They're very, very gray or bleak about their future. Yeah,
yeah,
that
yeah, and
I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah.
we've collectively done that to them. And
Yes,
what my children struggle with in particular is the anxiety that that causes. And
sure.
then, but they've done a pretty good job of investigating, how to resolve those issues. But I've said this to you many times before. I don't remember as a child, like from the sentient moment. I don't know how old I was, maybe 2 or 3, as soon as you start recognizing the world, up
Mhm.
until my teens, maybe 20s. I don't remember being anxious about anything. It was carefree, and I
Mhm.
had bad days. I got picked on sometimes. I'd lose a game or not get the grade I wanted, stuff like that. But I wasn't walking around in a state of anxiety. I was walking around in a fairly confident state about my family, about my future, about the
Mhm.
country. I don't think we're old guys looking back at the past here, dude. I think this is
Oh,
true.
I try not to, um, but you almost feel like you're not even. In some cases, you're not even wanted or listened to. And I understand that. That's partly that comes with age, right? But you're not even in the. We're not even in the conversation sometimes because they clearly they can discriminate against one side but not the other. The hypocrisy of that, right? You can outright discriminate against one group and nobody says anything when that's exactly what we were trying to prevent from happening. You
Well, I
see that a
mean,
lot, and that's an
yeah,
everyday occurrence.
yeah.
So common that we don't even say anything anymore. We just accept it.
Well, I think it was Bill O'Reilly I was listening to on the radio, and he was talking about the concept of history because he's essentially one of the things he is he's an historian. He studies history and he writes
Mhm.
about history and he writes about
Yep.
old ex-presidents and he writes about wars, and he's very well educated in history. And I think one of the things that saps our confidence as a country is we're not teaching history anymore. These kids don't. I mean, guys are walking around with microphones asking 20-year-olds, where Pearl Harbor was, and half of them don't even know what Pearl Harbor is, right?
Mark,
And
they're
these,
rewriting history
I know,
in many
I know,
cases. They're
I know.
tearing down buildings and statues and putting up new ones. They're rewriting history
Well,
as the way that.
the bridge that collapsed in Baltimore
Hmm.
is the Francis Scott Key Bridge. And
Hmm.
the big media push was not that our transportation system is falling apart, our infrastructure is falling apart, trains are going off rails, shit's blowing up, buildings are collapsing, and it's that. You know what that's about? We should when we rebuild that bridge, we should rename it because Francis Scott Key had slaves. I mean, give me a fucking break. you know how about, like,
Yeah,
let's get to the people that die, get to their families, let's apologize, let's
yeah,
hold somebody accountable. I mean, this is a this obfuscation I was talking about. This is like, let's if we can take our eyes off the topic, then we can't get blamed for the bridge collapsing because now we're talking about race again. Like, are you fucking
yeah.
kidding me? You
Yeah,
know?
the obsession with, like you said, separating us into these different groups or tribes, uh, to to make it even, I guess.
You
That
can't.
affects my confidence of and of people. You look at, if you don't have a country unless everybody believes in something, at least
Mhm.
one thing. You believe that this place and the intentions or your the outlook and the destination, there has to be some commonalities to have a country. And you just see that being chipped away at every single day.
Yeah, and I
And
mean, when you step back, or when I step back and I say,
Mhm.
why is this happening? How is this happening? What's the purpose of this? To
Yeah.
me, it's control. It's like, if we can scare the shit out of you, if we can divide you and make you argue and angry, then we can exercise control. COVID was about control, right?
Oh, no doubt about it.
The
Yeah.
election fraud was about control. you
Yeah.
know, and it's like, I'm not embarrassed saying that the election was fraudulent, because it can be fraudulent in a number of different ways.
Well, every
But I don't have any,
election has some of that. That's part
I,
of
I have
human
no
beings and
confidence.
elections. Yeah, there's no
I have, I have no confidence in the election
as long as
process
there's
right
been an
now.
election, there's been some fraudulent
Yeah.
behavior. That's
Yeah, but again, I think it's bigger than that. I think it's bigger than that. But, you know, I think that you know, Ed, what about confidence in the dollar? You know,
Mhm.
how's that working out? You know,
Yeah.
I mean, again, but I think to what you like to do, and I appreciate you for it, is where's the positive to this? And it's like, well, okay, I have been involved in a program for the last year that I'm very happy with, that has a lot to do with why I feel probably more confident about my ability to impact the world, about the next 30, 40 years that I hopefully am still on the planet, more confident about my grandchild's future, my children's future. And what I've done is just I dialed up the volume on my connection with my faith, my connection with God, because for me, when you can identify that I really don't have a whole lot of control over much, there's a much bigger thing going on here that's much bigger than me. And if I can attach myself to faith in that, then it takes all the responsibility away from me having to be super confident all the time, having to be dialed in all the time. Just put in the work, show up every day, and connect with your higher power. Understand there's a lot more going on than just little old you. And then, you know, try and serve as many people as you possibly can. That's how I get my confidence back. I don't know
Mhm.
what tools you use.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned that, especially, that right after Easter, a few days after Easter, right? And what that means as a Catholic, just for a moment, put aside the the Catholic side of it, but there is a lot to say for explain that for just a recap of what Easter means. And again, without going too much into the actual religion, but it is a time of of revisiting things, right? What's
Yeah.
your definition as a Catholic? Give me
Well, I
your.
mean, it's the crucifixion and resurrection of the Son of God, Jesus
Mhm.
Christ, and all of the stories around that, from the disciples to Mary Magdalene to Lazarus, to Barabbas on being let go free and instead arresting Jesus, and all of the hypocrisy. You know, you'll betray
Mhm.
me before the cock crows three times. You know, and there's the stories around it are really really rich. But at the
Mhm.
end of the day, it's like, no, in order to really be faithful, and this isn't just Catholic, it's Christian.
Right.
In order to be faithful, you really have to believe in something that you're never going to see, and you're never going to touch, and you're never going to hear. It's all third party stuff.
Mhm.
And that can be pretty daunting. But it
Mhm.
also, I've had moments of just really extreme lightness of being, extreme warmth, just thinking, okay, God, I'm in your hands today. I need you today. And I'm gonna recognize that you're gonna be with me all day, and you're not gonna let anything bad happen. And you know, bad things happen, but just having that connection to a higher power with an intention,
Mhm. The
multiple
intention
times during
of
the
letting the past go, right, and moving into this
letting the
next.
past go, having
Yeah,
some confidence in the future, having confidence in God, having confidence in your faith,
yeah,
and
having confidence in a better day, and then letting go of maybe the some of the things that you've done wrong. Recognize those, whether they're
forgiving yourself. Yep.
forgiving yourself. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Again, this is what this is. I think it's a great um, tradition that can be applied to any parts of your life, right? There comes a time when you have to look at the past as the past and then recognize it and then move on into this next um, phase in your life. And that's as
Hey,
Catholics, that's what Easter's for. That's what's it's to recognize that.
well,
Well,
yeah, it's one of the stopping points, and I get the stopping points to reflect. You know, it's a religious, or it's a Christian version of the New Year's resolution, I
mhm,
suppose. You know, it's time to reflect. But I mean, getting back to confidence, I think the one of the things that I find myself doing in my coaching with my kids, with my friends, is I feel a real obligation to help people that are seemingly lacking in confidence at a particular moment to regain that confidence. And I'm sure you do that with the high school kids and the football team
Well,
and
yeah,
everybody that you
yeah.
associate with. Is part of what you're doing is saying, look, here's 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 how to get where you want to go in life. Here's a couple of suggestions. And when you give someone some direction and some advice and some wisdom, um, it can't help but give them a little bit more confidence. And sometimes it's what pushes them over the edge to accomplishment.
Yeah,
And before I forget, Jim,
definitely.
I heard, we talk about the difference between knowledge and wisdom all the time.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
there's a lot of knowledge in the world, but very little wisdom. And somebody said it the other day. I can't remember who it was, but I loved it. And it was something like, knowledge is just knowing stuff. Wisdom is knowing things that understanding things that never change,
Yeah.
right? Knowing
Yeah.
things that never change. And he was talking about it in the context of, that's why the Declaration of Independence doesn't need to be rewritten, because it's all about things that don't change. It's about human nature. It's about the nature of man. It's about justice. It's about fairness. It's about equality, things that never change, And so the
Yeah.
truth, not a truth, not your truth, but the truth,
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. You may remind me of something that just in the last 5 days. So I received a call um and they both happen to be about the same age, and they're in their 30s, right? About, yeah, both of them probably in their 30s, early 30s. And random, no relationship to two calls, but I received a call on Monday, or last Friday, I should say, out of the blue, from it's a rugby connection. He's from Australia. And he's like, "Hey, Jim, I'm doing this project. I thought of you. You've got these patents, and I know you do some stuff with innovation. Do you have a couple minutes? I just want to get your thoughts on something." I said, and I hadn't talked to him probably in a year and a half. I said, "Sure." So we had a conversation, turns into an hour, but it was really interesting because you could, yeah, he's a father. He's married. He's an immigrant because he's from Australia. But you had this real sense of excitement, but also just uncertainty about where things were going. Excitement as he wanted to bring a an AI technology to gaming and something to do with sports. And he had these ideas, and I understand, as an inventor, the world needs people like that. But at the same time, he was overwhelmed with the amount of change and where to start and what to believe and all these different things. So it was a great comment. He was very grateful, and I just gave him some suggestions. Hey, think about this. Don't get too caught up in the startup bullshit, because VCs may not be your best game. Old school, making money first. Those kind of, just basic, like you said, wisdom advice. And then I happened to get a call 3, 4 days later from somebody else, completely unrelated, almost with the exact same questions. Hey, I've had this company for this many years. I'm thinking about selling it, but I don't really know. I see all these opportunities with AI, and 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 then another kind of inventor, business owner, same exact situation. There's something going on in the air right now, Mark, and part of it is some level of excitement about the possibility of change and new opportunities, but also just uncertainty of the future and the lack of confidence of really where to go. What's the next move? Because there's so much change going on. And these are mainly
no,
businesses and innovation. Um,
no, I think they're very interesting stories, and you're right. I feel it. I think there's something going on in
mhm.
the air that's different, and it's a lack of confidence in our leaders. It's a lack of confidence
Yes.
in our future. It's a lack of confidence in our own abilities. And I think, one of the things, again, going back to the fact that we both spend a lot of time trying to help people, right? For
Yeah.
lack of
I
a
think
better
it's
phrase.
it's a unique uh, talent that we have, but also it's, again, there's a reason why people come to us for advice, right?
Well, I think part of it and when most of the people that I deal with are missing a piece of their confidence, are lacking in confidence
Related to their careers, correct?
related to their careers, but
Hmm.
usually also related to their personal lives as well. Because
Hmm.
as we always talk about with our wheel, if you're having a struggle with your career, then you're probably having a struggle with your relationships. You might be having a struggle with your health. maybe money's become a struggle for you. So it's like one thing leads to another,
Mhm.
to quote the song. But it's part of what I try to do with people is say, I want to help you get your confidence back, because I can see from the outside looking in that really you're not missing any capabilities. You're missing information. So I'm going to try to get you some answers, which will build your confidence. I'm going to give you some advice tactically and strategically, which will also boost your confidence. And then as soon as you start to experience the results that these shifts and changes will be bringing to your life, that will bring you some self-confidence, because success breeds confidence.
Mhm.
So it's an interesting kind of step-by-step thing. Arguably, my whole existence is helping people either rebuild or
Mhm. Sure.
improve their self-confidence. And
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
it's 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 a lot of fun, but and that leads me to, well, what do I do when I'm lacking in confidence? Well, I'm seeking out someone like me. I might
Yeah.
seek out you. You help me with my confidence. I might call my father. He helps me with my confidence. My
Yeah.
children help me with my girlfriend helps me with my confidence. So, one of our friends,
Yeah.
Jeff, posted about something. What do you do? Our friend Jeff posted today. What do you do, or how do you handle the transformative moments in your life? And
Mhm.
I think it was a poll. You read books, you listen to podcasts, or you seek out the advice of other people. And I
Mhm.
selected, I seek out the advice of other people. I suppose I do all three, but
Yeah.
what are the tools that you use when your confidence is
Yeah, no, I
waning?
really like where you're going with this. Like you said, we seek out trusted leaders,
Yeah.
and the word leader is you trust that their advice because they've modeled something and they've done something that you trust will bring them to the destination that they have. They don't actually know. That's what they're trying to figure out. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the wheel because I just threw it up on the screen. But as you said, the center is ourself,
Mm-hmm.
many selves. Number one is, I think, self awareness. Self confidence is probably one or two, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's managing your self confidence or lack of self confidence,
Mm-hmm.
but then how that plays out into these five parts of your life. And um, today, I think we're referring mainly to the worldview with the current leadership and the in around the world is very, I would say, at a low point, as far as where we're going. But it does affect us, our relationships with other people. It affects us in relationship to money, scarcity, abundance.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, our health, our physical and mental health, and then our profession. And you and I both do, some one-on-one consulting, coaching, business consulting. I did a session last Friday. That's right. And
Mm-hmm.
this is a company. They reached out to me. I did some work from years ago, but the owner just needed, was uncertain about the future and how she wanted to increase her business or revenue. And in the past, I would just get straight into the numbers. Hey, let's take a look at your accounting and see what's going on. But this time, I started with the wheel that I have up on the screen now, and I
Yeah.
said, we really it's all attached to one another. So we don't have to get into one of these. Some of these are personal. This is a professional coaching, but I did start to play the business agent role, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you need an agent, somebody that takes a satellite perspective of what's going on in the world, zooms it down to that entrepreneur, that individual, and then identify those areas in their life. So again, I'm not there to give health coaching or people coaching, but just realize these things are going on, and then how does that affect your business? Of course, it's going to affect your business because if you're feeling really good about your money situation, you're going to feel good about the world. You're going to feel good about your business. You're going to feel good about, but if your health isn't right, so they're all connected, and it's kind of interesting though how we've used this podcast to talk about this framework of these five areas of our life, but now um, it is related to everything we do,
Yeah.
particularly in the world's worldview or professional um, roadmap.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's the wheels become a really cool tool, and I think it does. It's probably it's an instrument you could use in almost any coaching. And I think that I would maybe correct something that you said. It's like it doesn't necessarily you're being in good health doesn't necessarily make your worldview better or your profession better, but it can.
Hmm.
It without it, it's much more difficult. And the other thing that strikes me as I'm listening to you is that we're all in this together, man. This
Yeah.
is this is like these challenges and these issues and these problems are not unique to me and you, right?
No,
But and
no.
we have them. Everyone has them. You know,
Yeah.
everyone has a different flavor of them. Some people are feeling good some days and not feeling good other days. And what I try to do is just make those ups and downs kind of just smooth the edges as much as I possibly can
Yeah.
with a gradual uptick. Like if you
Yeah.
looked at my life over time, you'd see that I was pretty much moving, I was making progress in whatever respect that meant. But I wasn't going way up and going way down. I was going a little bit up today, feeling good. A little bit down today, a little bit up tomorrow. You know, it's just like
Mhm.
that's my goal is to and all of these tools, the spiritual stuff I do, the people I hang around with, trying to stay away from YouTube and the news, you know, the stuff I listen to on the radio, the food I put in my mouth.
It's
It's
all
all
related. It's
it's
all
all
connected.
collective.
It's at
It's
the end of the
all
day, it's all about alignment
yeah.
and getting that alignment as close as you can. It's constantly changing, but yeah, yeah. I think the other one that you're starting to realize by talking to different people. I'm just using these three examples because these are just three business related conversations, and that is how isolated we become through the technology, but also as kind of the American way of being the individualism and not needing others, but we do need each other. And that was the one message to him. Hey, look at the world needs everybody. Dealing with engineers is difficult, but they need your innovation. They need your business vision to create something, and we need their technical skills. So it's trying to to value everybody's contribution, and this whole individualism maybe not be maybe a little bit overrated.
Well, I
If
think
you
you
want to
know
make big change, at least. Yeah.
we're both familiar with this Harvard study of men
Yep.
and it going back now 85 years. They started it in like the 30s or something, you know,
Yeah.
and so that's a lot of data. You know, you're
Hmm.
interviewing different people. At the beginning, it was all white guys because it was Cambridge, Massachusetts, and it was Harvard in the
Yeah.
30s. And then in the 50s and 60s, it started to include more immigrants, more black people. They started interviewing the wives of these men, the daughters and sons of these men, and generationally, I think they're 4 generations in now, and that's some serious data. That's any
Yeah.
insights you're pulling from that data is probably very accurate. And I think this is the case. I remember the number one source of happiness for men was, and supposedly for women as well, the number and depth of their social relationships, their friendships.
Hmm.
And when you say that we've isolated ourselves or we've been isolated by others or other things, scare tactics and such, I mean,
Yeah.
climate change
We've been
isolates us.
divided
Yeah, racism
intentionally.
divides us, you know,
Hmm.
politics divides us, you know,
Yep.
everything is, everybody's dividing everybody. Well, what are you doing? You're sucking the confidence out of people and you're making people
Hmm.
unhappy. You know
And
what's the
creating to create uncertainty
yeah
of the future. Yeah.
yeah there's I mean I don't there's nothing worse than uncertainty. You know, I don't
Right.
know is a wonderful thing to be able to say, but I would rather know bad news than not know what was going on. You know, because I can at least put closure to something if it's bad news. I can take action. Not knowing whether something's going to happen or not. That's the worst place to be for me.
Well, yeah, because we feel like we're out of control, and if you don't feel like you have control of your life, then that affects your confidence and it affects your outlook. Um, but yeah, let's get back to even comparison. Again, I just don't want to compare the way it used to be, but I do think we become less. Uh, we're too serious. Everything has become very serious. I remember a time and uh, even places where it, everything was about having fun and there was some humor to things. It was even though it was business, we were going to go have a couple beers after work to celebrate the account or do something. We used to
Mhm.
get together a lot. That was a big part of being in business or even again sports. It
Well,
was after the game
yep,
to go
yep,
have a couple beers or laugh and enjoy. But now it doesn't seems like you have that. People just
yep.
don't go out the same as they did because
No,
they go back to
it's
their devices. And even for example, if you go out to just go to a local bar, which is sometimes fun just to run into people, right? Most of the time people will be on their cell phone and they'll stop if they're interested, but the device had really has isolated us to live our lives through these phones when we used to have um those more serendipity interactions.
yeah, yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think the devices have something to do with it. I think COVID has something to do with it.
No
I
question.
think I,
Yeah.
I think the division that we've created
Hmm.
on the political landscape has something to do with it. I mean,
Yep.
the idea that if there that half the population, and maybe it's not half, um, that if I walk up to somebody and claim to be in favor of Donald Trump, that the
Yeah.
person that I'm talking to is all of a sudden is going to hate me.
Yeah.
Like, what?
That's
What?
right.
You're gonna
Yeah.
hate me? Cause,
Yeah.
cause, cause that's like hating me for liking chocolate ice cream because you
Yeah.
like vanilla, you
Yeah.
know? I mean, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
like, well,
That's like doing business, not doing business with a company because you found out that the owner voted for supported Trump. I mean, that's
yeah,
the kind of stuff that it's a real thing. It's not made up. Yeah.
it's a real thing. And I really think that, in the spirit of, coming to a conclusion with this episode, I really think that I would like to leave people with the fact that, I've had, I've been very confident in my life and I've been completely lacking in confidence, particularly at the beginning of my divorce when everything was taken away from me. Just all of a sudden, it was like, how could I possibly survive with confidence after that? I got it back, but it's like, so, and I go inside
Mhm.
first, and I recommend that's the best place to start. And that's like the spiritual stuff, right? That's like
Mhm.
my own physical well-being. When I don't exercise for a couple of days in a row, my confidence wanes. My confidence is
Mhm.
taken from me. And like I said, I go to rekindle relationships, like pick up the phone and call someone you haven't talked to in a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, I was not long ago that I reached out and talked to one of my college suite mates that I hadn't talked to in 30 years. And he said things to me like, you were one of the best athletes I ever played basketball with. You were the
Yeah,
funniest
it's
guy I've
good for
ever
a
met.
nice dopamine hit, but yeah.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
think the word, that now it's not that came to mind, and we could probably do a whole episode on this, uh, is the word indifference. It's I heard the context of this years ago. It talks about if you're in a relationship and you care enough to argue about things, that relationship still has life in it. But
Yes.
if one of those people become indifferent to everything, then the relationship is probably is unrepairable. It's done.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think what my concern is with what's going on in the state we're in right now is this indifference. And obviously I'm speaking of myself at the moment, right?
Hmm.
Indifference is very dangerous because you just don't care as much. You don't care either way.
Yeah.
And
One of the
I
things,
think that happens in life in general. But what are your thoughts on the word indifference?
yeah, the word that I have used in that context is it's almost the same thing. It's apathy, and I used to
Uh-huh.
hear, there was a lot of talk in the day in my dark days about, love versus hate. Why does she hate you or whatever? It's like, the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is apathy or indifference,
Yeah.
And to your point, if you're emotionally and, kind of acting like you really hate somebody, then you wouldn't care that much about somebody that you didn't care about,
Mhm.
you know? So it's
But I
it's a
do think we have a
fascinating.
generation. We've programmed a generation of younger people that may have become more indifferent than we realize. They're checking out because these problems are so much bigger than them. They have no control of them, And when you have a population that is indifferent about something or is so polarized to one opposite to the other, that's not a good outcome in the end.
No,
You
it's
can't get much done.
that's how nations get taken over by other nations. The ones that become indifferent get taken over by the ones that
Interesting. Yeah.
are not indifferent yet. So
Yeah.
no, it's a I think confidence is a real big issue today. I think I appreciate you bringing it up before we started recording, and I think I hope we handled it from enough angles that people have some things to think about, because I do want to say that I don't want anybody to be hopeless. You know,
Yeah.
I'm saddened by people that are hopeless, and I try to reach out to anybody. You know, I've got some people pretty close to me that are, one in particular that's hopeless right now, and
Yeah.
it's painful, and I'm trying to reach out to help him, and haven't successfully done that yet, but
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
got a bunch of people around him that are trying to do that with him. And so
Yeah.
don't be hopeless. There's hope, and there's things you can
Yeah. It
do.
reminds me of a it's a kind of a quote, but it was more of a thought I heard years ago. It was what the world, great leaders are dealers of hope, just like a drug dealer to feel better about something.
Hmm.
And that's what the world needs, right? Is hope. But there's also only one thing worse um than no hope, or I should say, there's only thing worse than, how'd this one go? It's yeah, it speaks to there's of no hope versus a broken promise. I don't know. I'll come back. Just we'll have to edit that one out. It was a bad. It was a good thought with a bad delivery, but
Yeah,
no.
no,
At the end of the day, yeah. If you want to give somebody a gift, give them hope of a better day,
yeah,
and leave them with an optimistic outlook on the future. And I think that what a nice thing to do with somebody. Try to lead in on something positive.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's in my conclusion, then I would say to anyone who's listening, find somebody that you can help with their confidence today, and
Yeah.
just whether it's telling them a story or giving them a pat on the back or words of encouragement, whatever, you can change someone's life by doing that. You know, and I
Yeah.
think that if we all were more conscious of that, and I'm going to try and be today, I'm more conscious of that. And I think that when we started talking about, I just don't feel like I have the ability to have much of an impact. Well, yeah, if you can make one person today feel a little bit more confident than before they met you today, then you've had impact.
Yeah. No question. All right, Mark. Until next week.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.